All right, well, ordinarily I would do this behind the guy's back, but today I'm going to openly mock and ridicule another YouTube metal caster. Well, yeah, kind of. So there's another guy out on YouTube, just started out. I mean, really just started out. He's got a channel called Norbert Makes. Norbert and I have been talking on email for quite some time now. And he's just finally kind of gotten to where he's doing a couple of videos. And he shot a video the other day, or at least put it out the other day, where he's looking straight down on his pour. And I watched that and I thought, there's some stuff we can talk about here. So I emailed him back and I said, Norbert, do you mind if I talk about your video? Now, I didn't mention anything about mocking and ridiculing him, and he gave me permission to talk about it anyway. I'm not going to really mock and ridicule him because I think that what I see in Norbert's video is stuff that I do, and I expect that a lot of people do. And I thought, this is a great opportunity to possibly just talk about some things and analyze what we're doing, and maybe we can make some corrections and get better castings as a result of it. So let me sit down on my chair here. Let me crack open a cold one. Yes, it's Diet Coke, the manly drink, not a beer, sorry. Anyway, we'll get him up on screen and we will take a look at what he's got. All right, so real quick here, I want to show you, before we start the video, this is a still of just the beginning of his video. I've kind of zoomed in to focus on the flask and the crucible. A couple of things to note that are good as we look at it. First thing is that the mold has a pouring basin, and that pouring basin tapers in at a diagonal. It tapers into his sprue. Good. It's coming in at a tangent. It's not a square cut and rough edges. It's going to be a nice smooth. He's got a ridge in between his basin and his sprue, which is another good feature. We'll keep moving here. And then at the bottom of his box, he's got I don't know, a riser, a vent. He's watching the metal. You can see the metal come up through there. But it's also venting his part. So, riser, vent, I'm not sure. Now, let me pick on a couple of things here. First of all is the placement of the basement within the flask and on top. You notice it's right. He's right in the middle. And let's just do a little kind of what is it, show and tell demo? I don't know. So let's assume that his basement is clan over here. This would be the corner of his flask, and he's got his crucible in his shank, and he's pouring here. Now he's got to pour out over here, right? So what he's got to do is he's got to clear the corner of this box here. His crucible is hanging down like this with the metal in it. In order to get that metal to fill, he's got to do something along these lines, right? He's got to tip it over and get it to pour out. Well, if it's pouring out, look where it's pouring from. That distance between here and here is probably going to be a couple inches. And when he pours, watch and see what happens. You'll see that he's pouring. He does kind of try to move it around and get it closer, but he's basically pouring from up in the air. If that basin were over here on the edge of the box, then what we can do is we can take our crucible and we can rotate it easily, and look where the lip of the crucible is in relation to the box or in relation to the pouring basin, right? It doesn't really have to get up very high. I can stay very, very close to the basin, and I'm not dropping metal down. When I drop metal down that far, it's going to come down fast. It only takes a little bit of distance for that metal to be going really fast. It's going to hit the bottom of that basin. It's going to have, what's going to happen, right? It's going to come down fast. Bubbles are going to get, air's going to get sucked in. Bubbles are going to form. Now, some of that's going to come out over the ridge. Goodness, but he's still forming oxides and he's still forming the biofilms, and that still can have a potential of going on over the top. So we want to keep that down low. We want to keep a nice flow into the basin without a lot of turbulence and without a lot of air getting entrained into things. The other thing you want to notice here is the height of his ridge. And I'm going to talk about this on paper in just a second. But I think just looking at it here, it looks like the height of his ridge is up a little bit high. And we'll talk about that here. And well, let's just go to the paper now and I'll show you what I mean. All right, so here's what we got. We've got the top of his mold right here, and he's got a basin that's cut down, and I don't know how deep it is. It doesn't really matter. And then he's got over here, he's got his sprue, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and we're going to assume it's a tapered sprue. What we have though is if this is sort of the top of his mold, we have this ridge up high here. When we fill this basin full of metal, it's going to come up, and it's going to finally start to come over. Well, when it comes over here, this is going to go quick, right? This is going to fall. And so what's going to happen is we're going to suck the metal essentially over this ridge, and there's not going to be enough here to keep this sprue full. What we need to be doing is, again, if I have my the top of my cope, and I cut my basin in, and I have my tapered sprue. Let's just do it like this. Comes up, and I've got a ridge, and let's do the ridge like it's supposed to. It's supposed to be shaped like that, so the metal is going to come over nice and smooth. We're not going to be falling over an edge like that. We're going to be falling over a nice taper or a nice rounded corner. Now, when I fill this basin in, I can fill this metal up here, and I can pour it in here rather quickly and get the level of the metal up in this area. Hopefully, I can get it clear up to the top, but I have enough material in here to hopefully feed that sprue and not starve it. And the last video I did, the last pour I did, I know I starved my sprue. I didn't pour fast enough into here, and the metal was coming down this sprue faster than I could keep it up over the ridge. All that's going to do is suck air into your part. I've talked about this before. I've talked about the idea that you don't want to be sucking air. That's why we don't want to do big parallel sprues, is when you pour metal straight down this thing, you get a stream of metal coming down. It's going to be sucking air in all the way around. And when we do things like a big basin at the bottom before we go off to our runner, that's going to come down here. It's going to mix. It's going to turn into foam. Maybe not quite that bad, but that's the idea. You pour it down here, it foams up, and now you bring it through your runner. So we want to keep air out of this system if at all possible. And the way to do that is to get that metal up high enough over this ridge that we can feed the sprue without starving it over the ridge, and keep metal coming down and without sucking air down along with it. All right, let me see. There's one more thing I want to talk about. That's good enough. So let's get back. Let me change my angle again, and we will get back to his video. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start this. As I said, it's about 2 minutes and 50 seconds into the his video, and we're going to just run through it. I'm going to talk right over the top. It's running at a quarter speed, so hopefully we'll have plenty of time to talk about some things. I'll put some arrows up on the screen as well to just kind of point out what I'm talking about. So we talked about the placement of his basin, and you can see what he's doing with his crucible right now as a result of that. The crucible's got to be up high. He's dropping it down here. He's getting a little bit closer, but when he starts to pour, his metal is falling. It looks like a pretty good distance before it even gets into the bottom of the basin. Now he's filling his sprue. Look at the sprue right there. It's empty. He's sucking air down. I'm sorry, I'm yelling at you, Norbert, but man, it's sucking air down. Now it has filled up because that metal has come up through the risers, come up through the mold, and they're the same. So the distance of his sprue is gone from here, the metal is filling up and it's getting shorter and shorter, and so it's easier for it to stay full. And I believe all those things we talked about on paper are things that we're seeing happen here. The last thing we're going to see happen here is he's going to pour metal all over the top of his mold. Guilty. Done that plenty of times. And the final thing I want to mention on this video is that he's on his knees. Norbert, get up, man. Get up off your knees. I want to see you around. I want to see you cast the stuff, and I don't want to see you get hurt, bud. So you got to make you a bench or something. Now, I'm a fine one to talk, all right? I thought I learned my lesson. A while ago, I poured some copper. It exploded on me when it was in the crucible because I was throwing junk copper in, and it popped, and I got burned between my fingers and stuff, and I saw like molten blobs of death floating through the air in slow motion, and no, it was no fun. I was like, scared straight, right? Well, I tend to forget, and I found myself just the other day come out here, and it was a warm day, and I thought, man, I don't feel like putting anything on over the top of me, and it's hot, and I didn't. And I was pouring, and right as I started to get the thing out, I thought, this is a mistake, man. Something bad could happen. Jeff, I still can't say your name, man. Tobo Mott did a video where he dropped some bronze on his steel toe boot, and it just literally went off, and it burned his foot really bad. This is dangerous stuff. Now, Norbert's not as old as me. Few of you are. But he's not a young man. He's not going to leap out of the way of that metal should something go bad. So, Norbert, get you a bench. As I said, I am a fine one to talk because I pour on top of a metal tabletop that I use as a welding table. Not bad, right? It's not going to catch fire. However, there's nothing to catch the metal. If I pour, or if my mold has a failure or something, that metal's coming right on the top, off the top, splashing down 3 feet to the floor, and then you know where it's going next? It's coming on me. Ideally, we should be pouring into a basined kind of table with sand in it. Martin has got one. If you go look at old Foundry man, another guy inside the mind of Matt, he kind of pours into a table with sand around his molds. That's a good practice. It's going to contain the metal. If anything goes wrong, it's going to stay there. It's not going to stay on me. And I'm watching his video over and over again. Anyway, we all need to be careful. If we're casting metal, we need to be careful. This is not, this is not nothing. This is hot stuff that could really hurt us. And we need to be careful. We need to be wearing proper gear. We need to be in safe positions that are comfortable and easy for us to control things. All stuff that we can learn from watching poor old Norbert. Norbert here. Oh, Norbert, thanks for letting me do this. Thanks for letting me use your video. It was a great angle to see what's going on here and show things that I'm sure I am doing. So you guys have just a great day. Be safe out there.